I'd also like to encourage participation from the people who are commenting, and that they know that we can actually do
Mm-hmm.
this, and then we can have a conversation. Parang ganun.
Okay. So,
Ayan. So anyway,
yes, no
no,
problem.
I forget your question.
Hindi. Yung sa abundance number 3 na abundance is authenticity. Yun, hindi ko
Yeah.
lang siya naintindihan. Ano yun, tungkol saan yun? And then, parang ang intindi ko, if you're authentic, then you'll become abundant, di ba?
Yes,
With
yes.
things.
Mm-mm.
Kaya lang, but sometimes, di ba, pag authentic na tayo when we're our true self, ganyan, um, nawawalan, 'di ba? Lumalayo yung tao, lumalayo yung grasya, parang gano'n. So, yun yung gusto ko lang malaman, paano ka magiging abundant by being authentic,
Okay, I think
yun.
it has something to do with I think yung mismong post hanapin ko lang This is what it says.
Yeah,
Wait lang
sure.
Fake it until you make it. Kasi di ba, abundance myth number 3, if
Mhm.
fake it until you make it. So the universal law is actually that abundance comes from authenticity and not necessarily from faking it. Have you heard of Have you heard of the saying fake it until you make it?
Yes, yeah, I have heard
I
of
think
that. Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
people have been subscribing to that. Um, fake it until you make it, fake it until you make it. No, they're so tired already, and then their internal conditioning
Mhm.
does not align already with their thoughts, with their hearts, and then they will just keep going and going and going. So at the end of the day, they feel inauthentic. At the same time, they feel more tired than they should. It's simply
Mm.
because
Oo.
they're not being authentic. But I think we have to qualify also what authenticity is.
Mhm.
What authenticity is. When we qualify authenticity, it only means that you are simply who you are. No
Mhm.
pretensions, no no faking it. And a lot of people also misinterpret it as something
Mm.
that I think the common Filipino term is being plastic,
Oo,
right?
yeah.
Being plastic. But the thing is, when we really look deep inside us, the authentic self that we have is actually the good one. That is our most authentic self. The good part of us is our
Mhm.
most authentic self. And
Okay, so even yung authentic self natin minsan ayaw ng tao. I mean, yung real self natin ayaw ng ibang tao, gano'n.
I think when we I think we can contextualize it. Some people would say that ganito ako eh. All right, this is
Oo,
who
yung
I
mga
am.
ganyan.
Yeah,
Ayan.
accept me for who I am.
Mhm.
That's not the authenticity we're talking about here. So a lot of people would be so a lot of people would say um, this is who I am, accept me for who I am. I don't care how you take
Mhm.
it, but this is who I am. So what can I do? Again, this is the way I speak, okay? Masaktan ka na ako, masaktan ka, but I'm just being true to you. All right? But that's not
Mhm.
the authenticity we're talking about here. Okay?
Oh, okay,
Because
okay.
the authenticity we're talking about here is the authenticity that can only come from a level of higher consciousness and not from the level of ego. And when we speak of the level of higher consciousness, we're talking about the level that is beyond the ego and that is above the ego. So, even meaning to say, if this is your ego, this is the higher consciousness. And that is the authenticity we're talking about. And it's something that is not actually hooked to the ego. When it's not hooked to the ego,
Okay.
it is not the kind of egoistic expression that says, this is who I am, accept me for who I am. Learn how to adjust. because this is who I am. And that is the work of an
Ganyan.
ego, right? And we often hear a lot of people say that. And that's not the kind of authenticity we're talking about. And now here's the thing. When we tap into the authenticity of people, we are actually tapping into the highest version of themselves. The part of themselves that is the highest part. And that is the authentic part of each and every one. So meaning to say, even if we do not like the person we're talking to, even if we have some issues with regard to the people we're talking to, when we look at their higher consciousness, their most authentic self, they are ultimately a good being, a good person. Because from your pure consciousness, the only thing that can rise from your pure consciousness are actually good things. As what teachers would say, so other spiritual teachers would say, the only thing that can come from your consciousness are love, joy, peace, compassion, and many more. No, many
Or
more
I have to turn
essences.
it off.
Okay lang. And many more essence.
Yeah, kasi it's lagging me so bad. Okay. Could you repeat that? Sorry, June, I didn't get it because the video I think is lagging me so bad.
Okay,
Yung
all right.
nag-chapter, sabi mo, yung the last part na, sabi mo, the authentic part is the highest part of
Yes.
that person. Yung ganun.
Yes.
Sorry.
The authentic part of the person is the highest part of the person. Meaning to say, we are talking about the consciousness of the person. Other spiritualities or spiritual teachings would call it the soul. Other would call it the spirit. Others would call it the consciousness. Others would call it the enlightened part of the person. So we're talking about authenticity in that level. Because ultimately, each person, when they are authentic, they are their higher consciousness and not their ego. They understand that they are not the form. Because this what we feel right now. When I touch my hands, okay, when you touch your hands, when you touch me, that is the form that you feel. But beyond form is actually the formless. And that is the life, that is consciousness. And it's something that we don't see in the person. That is the authentic self of that person.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was that was what we are referring to here.
Okay. So yung katulad nung the one I'm asking about, yung katulad ng example na sinabi mo na, tanggapin mo ako, ito yung totoong ako, ganon. So that's not the one. Kasi ego yun eh. That's the work of the ego.
Yes, it's the work of the ego. Imagine when you say that, accept me for who I am, you're not, you are telling the other person perhaps to accept you, not necessarily you, because again, the you we're referring to is the higher consciousness. You're telling the other person to accept the way you have identified with your ego. Because there are a lot of people who identify with their ego. There are a lot of people who identify with their minds, with their emotions, with their body. And when that happens, and there is strong identification, they lose the most authentic part of themselves, which is the highest part of themselves. Yeah. So that is what
so as long as we're attached to our ego.
Yeah. So when we
as long as we're attached to this ego, we don't see our higher self. Parang ganun ba?
Ego is a hindrance or is a barricade for us to realize our higher consciousness. When we say it's a hindrance or a barricade, it means that when we are identified with it, because there is your higher self, and then there is your mind, and then there is your body, and then there is the mind and the body are actually in a way attached to the ego because of the many things that have been conditioned to us when we were growing up.